Hi, my love, and welcome to Yes to Life podcast, a podcast about soulful living and sacred feminine embodiment. It is a podcast about following our dreams, open up to our full potential, and saying yes to life. It is also a podcast about remembering the sacredness of the female body and the feminine essence. My name is Helena. I'm a mother of 6 beautiful children and a sacred, sensual, and feminine embodiment guide. I help women in all stages of their lives to love, adore, and understand their female bodies, to celebrate their feminine essence, and to awakening their inner goddess. I'm the founder of Blissful Feminine Flow and the creatrix of programs like Yoni Flowering, Womb Bliss, Sacred Bleeding, Blissful Mama, Pleasure Queen, and Sacred Feminine Body Love. I have always been very open and sensitive and have a feeling that more is possible. Beside my deep love and curiosity for the female body and the feminine essence, which I got mostly from my own pregnancy, birth, and motherhood, I am also very fascinated about people who have dared to walk their own path and follow their dreams and are showing us that more is possible. I can see the power of us coming together and have these deep conversations about the things that we care about. I can also see the gift of listening to these deep conversations. That's why I started this podcast. If this touches something deep within you, please stay tuned and let's get started with today's episode. So, welcome everybody to another episode of Yes to Life podcast. And today I am here with my absolutely beautiful guest, Amanda, a woman that I started to follow a few months ago, and everything that she say always touches me so deeply. And it's a woman with so much, I feel, the power and also the deep, deep wisdom. And for me, she is also a clear voice for the feminine and have been so much help for me. Yes, I'm so happy to say welcome, Amanda.
Thank you so much, Helena. Thank you for that beautiful introduction, by the way. So appreciate that. So appreciate you for inviting me onto your podcast. And yeah, I'm just really excited to get into this conversation and see where it goes.
Yeah. So before we start to talk, I just want to for everyone that don't know you, of course, I just want to ask you many questions, but for the ones that don't know you, just say some words, who you are and what you do.
Okay, yeah, that's probably a good place to begin. I've found that sometimes I want to get to the good stuff so quickly that I forget to introduce myself on my own podcast. So I do have a podcast myself called the Heart of Truth podcast. I am a divine feminine embodiment mentor, and I teach spirituality, ascension, awakening, but through a very grounded, embodied framework. So I've been on this journey for a while, and it began with a cancer diagnosis. It began in earnest with a cancer diagnosis, I should say, almost 10 years ago. I'm coming up on my 10-year cancerversaries, but that experience really opened up these deeper realms of healing, and then it kept spiraling me deeper and deeper into the energetic layers, into the epigenetics, which got me into ancestral trauma. And it really then opened up this pathway that many of us call, spirituality and awakening. And through my ordeal, I started meditating more deeply and doing gratitude practices, which evolved more deeply into prayer. And so I really restored my connection with higher consciousness, God, however you connect with it. I say Holy Mother, Holy Father God at this point. And so that really brought me on this deep journey that ultimately blossomed into this divine feminine priestess path. The rose lineage came into my field. And I had no idea that this was even a thing, that people were on this path of the priestess. When I was, entering that phase, I literally had rose petals and roses coming into my reality as well as feathers. I was literally following the feathers and the rose petals as I went deeper. And I was just in a space of total curiosity. And then my book came through. I channeled this in December 2020 as like a 21-day series, and it became the framework, the foundation of this book that I edited heavily over the last however many years. So I'm an author and founder of Illumina Wisdom School. And yeah, I'll leave it there in a nutshell for now. Just as I shared a little bit about my journey, I could go on so many tangents at this point, but that is how I got here in a nutshell. It just kept bringing me deeper and deeper within myself. I've dealt with spiritual warfare, psychic attacks, that kind of thing, womb targeting. So a lot of what I do focus on now to really bring this home and anchor it is divine feminine sovereignty reclamation and womb restoration. So, one of the sessions I do is a crystalline womb restoration session, and it's very powerful. And I hold womb courses now, but the overarching theme is divine feminine sovereignty reclamation, getting back into the body, bringing our point of power back within into our center. So we can elaborate on that as you wish, but yeah, that's I think a good place to start from.
Yes, beautiful to hear your story, Amanda. And I think that I have heard a little bit of everything that you talk about from you. But what touched me so deeply was this yes, this feminine reclamation, and also when you talked about this psychic attacks and also targets on your womb, because I think that we are so many women, especially women, who have this. We are here to change something,
Hmm.
and we also experience this, and we think many of us think that something is wrong with us, and we do everything maybe right, if you say so, and it keep we keep repeating the same things, and so it's like we can feel that, okay, it feels like we are targeted, but if no one talks about it, then it feels a little bit scary to say that. So when you talked about it, my tears were flowing, and I could feel it, and I could see the things that have happened in my life where I felt like that, but I couldn't put it into words. So when you put it into words, everything just started to release from me, and I started to remember who I was before that. So I just want to say thank you first for you speaking about this. And what is it that you can see? Is it something that you see in the women that you work with?
Thank you so much for sharing that personal experience. So it's profound when we can enter that space of deep remembrance. And I honestly had full body chills when you shared that, because it's literally at the level of our cells that we begin to awaken this remembrance. It's held within our DNA. And yes, again, this can go back through the ancestral lineage, but it's also held in our etheric body. The pain, the trauma, the wounding from if you want to call it past lifetimes, multidimensional realities, all of the above, right? We hold that in our energetic body. And I call the body temple. And really, what I do and what I teach is light body restoration. So, as we do this process, and we can call it healing, but I actually don't even like to use that word healing anymore because so many people get stuck in this loop, this paradigm, these cycles of healing because they don't know how to integrate because they're not taught that. It's not included in, what a lot of what's out there. So this is no judgment, blame, or shame. It's bringing clarity, awareness, and discernment into the field because so much of that has been lost and forgotten. And some of it is deliberately left out to keep people in the spin cycle. You awaken, but then find yourself in another trap, in another loop, in another cube. And so that gets into the targeting aspect of it. But when we can start to restore the light body, reclaim the aspects of self, and truly remember at the cellular level who we really are, that is when we reclaim our power, and that is when we reclaim our sovereignty, our womb, our voice. Then we're fully on our mission, and we have the power and capacity to serve whoever we're here to serve, to create whatever we're here to create. So this is what I feel is the game changer because I was stuck in those spin cycles and loops and, seeking the training there and, doing the healing there, that retreat, that pilgrimage. I was in that cycle for several years, and while I had a lot of beautiful experiences and I have no regret, I don't want to, be in victimhood about any of that, right? It was part of my journey, but what I see was it was getting the data for what's really going on in this world and what is missing, what the gaps are, and why for so many people none of these practices or modalities or trainings are moving the needle because what are people getting trained in these trainings half the time? There's very little practicality underlying the training or the immersion or whatever it is. It's nice. It's nice to be immersed in those energies, in those groups. A lot of them do hold high value. I want to be clear about that. I'm not knocking the entire industry or the realm. But what we're being called to do is to truly embody these energies. And that requires integration, that requires patience, but it requires getting into the body. And at the foundation of this is nervous system work. So if our nervous system doesn't have the capacity to hold the frequency, the healing or the activation can't truly anchor into the body. So if there's no space for that energy, then it's not going to move the needle, is one way to look at this. But as we deepen into remembrance and reclamation, we're going to have to clear the body temple. It is a process of purification and purging. And so it's not easy. This is really about facing the mirror, facing the shadows without judgment, blame, or shame, of course, with deep compassion, with deep gentleness. But this is where the real work lies. Yes, shadow work, but remembering that it's all occurring within the body vessel, within the body temple.
Yes.
So I'll pause there for a moment.
Yeah. Yes, and yes, I see it. And for me, I have also worked with women for many years now with sacred feminine embodiment, and I can see that so many women also try to connect with her from a masculine frame or from a point that they have to force and do things, but the feminine is coming from a totally another place, and I think we are so we are not used to that. And it also can be scary, because I know that you talk about the history of the feminine too, and especially with the voice. And when I did my course Yoni Flowering, I was talking so much about the connection with the yoni and the womb and the throat, and how we were talking about this instrument that they were using on the woman's mouth, that she couldn't speak. And as you shared in your late video, that in some places on earth, maybe not just specifically that thing, but people can't speak. And for me, I went through a divorce, and we have children. And I have children with that man. And when I talked about specific things, they were going to take the children from me. So something deeply happened in my physical body that I couldn't speak. And now I know that the only way, you said it before I pressed record, but the only thing, or the only way is through.
Mm.
So when I stopped speaking, I got depressed, and the heaviness in my body, and started to feel shame and guilt and everything. Just the world just get smaller and smaller. So I knew that I have to speak up, even if whatever is going to happen, the only way is for me to speak. And I think that is so important for the women today. But the thing is that if we're not connected, maybe we don't know what to speak. But I think it's a circle when we start to speak, and someone listen that can hear what we have to say, and we ask the deepest levels of ourselves, that something awakens and we start to remember.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so thank you for bringing up the voice reclamation aspect of this, because it's such a huge part of this, restoring the throat chakra, reclaiming the voice. And so many women carry this persecution wound, this visibility wound that goes back to many lifetimes. And we can call it the witch wound, the priestess wound, where so many were literally persecuted for speaking truth.
Yes.
For sharing their wisdom, their natural wisdom, their direct connection with God, their oracular abilities directly targeted, diminished, suppressed. And as you say, and as I was getting into in my episode that you just referred to, it's still occurring on the planet now. And even in so-called open, free, democratic societies, the true divine feminine, her truth is still being suppressed and oppressed in so many subtle, insidious ways. This internalized misogyny that even awakened people embody. And I mean both men and women, because the women can be doing this to ourselves, but also to each other. Anytime we project envy, jealousy, or talk behind their back, that's actually this internalized misogyny that often roots back to these timelines where we were kind of forced to turn against each other for our own safety, but we carry those energetic imprints. So this is not just toxic masculinity of the patriarchy and the narcissism of the patriarchy running through men. It is running through both men and women. And it can come in the most subtle, insidious ways, such as speaking over a woman or questioning her truth, questioning the integrity of her voice, what she speaks, what she writes. Somebody just tried to do this to me yesterday. Where did you get that from? This sentence. And I was like, what do you mean, where did I get it from? I was like, my mind, my higher self, my channel. And I was like, let me remind you, I wrote an entire book, and word for word, that was my channel. I didn't, are you accusing me of plagiarizing or using Chat GPT or something for all of my words? So, and it's not that I got overly triggered, but I noticed the energetic current that was moving through the field in that moment. And I was like, this is old, ancient energy coming up to be witnessed and also to show me so clearly how deeply embedded it is, because that was a woman who said that to me.
Yeah.
And I thought it was quite fascinating that it was coming up in that manner. And I do have, excuse me, some deep clarity on timelines that it's probably connected to where my voice was outright suppressed.
Yes.
And, excuse me, see,
I love it.
the, as we speak the truth, our voice gets activated and more gets cleared, more of the energy gets cleared from the field as I speak this now. And I do find it very interesting. Let me just touch on this. My little light went out shortly into recording this, and I feel that is actually, it's obviously just not charged, but I think it's quite symbolic of the energetics that we're moving through.
Yes.
Technically, the feminine energy is in the underworld right now, getting ready to rise. It feels like a final threshold for many women who have been on the path. We are reclaiming the aspects of self that have been hidden in the darkness, in the depths of the underworld, of the psyche, of our being. And we're being called to reclaim those aspects of self, integrate into wholeness, and emerge fully embodied in time for the year of the fire horse. Whenever people might find this episode, though, of course, this is an energetic that is moving through the collective in a grander timeline as well. So this is occurring within all of our vessels, within our temples, within our consciousness. And we're being called to reclaim the darkness itself as well as what is coming through, because the feminine is both light and dark. The primordial womb space, right? The primordial cosmic womb, the source of all creation from which all creation is birthed, is held in the darkness. All of the infinite possibilities, right, are held within the darkness, the potential. And that is what the womb is a reflection of. It is a reflection of the cosmos. It is a stargate. It is a portal. And so doing the womb work is so important so that we can truly embody the fractal that we came here to express in its most purified form, shining bright like the diamond, right?
Yes.
So we integrate the shadows and have that full light of the spectrum radiating its full light that comes from integrating the darkness. It's not that empty light, right? It contains the full spectrum of light.
Mm.
So that's what was coming through just now. So
Yes. Yes. And I love that so much because I had a sister circle uh, the past year and what's called Shine Sister Shine. And I think
Mm.
that many of the women that come into that circle, they don't know, we don't know what we can expect. But I think that maybe they thought that it was going to be a little bit more just about the light, but we went deep, deep, deep and reconnected and started to remember what we are here to shine and to share. And I think that the feminine is also so it's the unknown. So we don't know before we come there to meet her.
Mhm.
And I also see it in childbirth, as I said to you before this, we pressed record, and how they don't want the women to go through that organic birth process, because when we do
Mm-hmm.
that, becoming we be connected to the Holy Mother and to the deep feminine that have her voice clearly, and she speaks up for herself, because it gives us that reclamation of the feminine. And
Mm-hmm.
yes,
Yeah, I think you're speaking to such an important subject, one that I cannot claim expertise in quite yet because I am not yet a mother. However, as I've been on this journey, I have obviously been opening my awareness up to the distortions in the medical industry specifically. Of course, I say I went through the belly of the beast when I went through my cancer experience.
mhm,
And so I saw all of the distortions, but now more specifically, I am seeing and wanting to delve more deeply into the distortions of the whole paradigm of the birthing industry.
yes,
And it's an industry.
yes,
How and I, understanding how they have a very specific process that often creates the complications that then necessitate the C-section and yada yada yada, rather than allowing, as you're saying, the birth portal to be organic. And
yes,
how is that impacting the children? But as you say, how is that impacting the mother with her own personal connection, her own personal initiation is
yes,
what's coming through. Oh yeah, it's such a deep subject and such a deep distortion that so many of us are being faced with. And I'm very grateful that I have been on this journey. I feel that I have been preparing my womb in many ways.
yeah,
Trusting that, this whole journey has been a huge preparation in a sense.
yeah,
And so that I have this awareness now. But yeah, it's quite shocking when you actually see just how distorted the industry is. And then we don't need to open up all the rabbit holes, but the placenta, how that is a whole industry as well.
yes.
Oh my God.
It's
I laugh,
so
but it's just like,
yeah, and as we said in the beginning, we have to start to speak about it, because I have
Mhm.
felt so many things, and I haven't talked about everything that I want to talk about,
Mm,
and it's so important. Even if I've talked much about the yoni and the sexuality, and how rape, how that
mm,
stay in the female body, and what they do with our voices, and that also is an agenda to target the yoni and the womb, and
mhm.
how that and the sexuality, how you can distort it and twist it in many directions, from it's ugly to it be totally what do you call it, yes, totally into the distorted version of it. So
Mhm.
it's so important to come home to this pureness of the womb, as you were saying.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I love that you're bringing that through, that word pureness, because, excuse me, there's a lot of clearing coming through this
Yes.
conversation, even as we speak on it, right? And, the word purity even has these religious overlays and connotations with it that I think even that word can be somewhat triggering for women when we talk about this. But when we understand that the womb is the center of our power, our power actually comes from our purity and innocence. And innocence, not in the sense of naivete, but in our purest essence of self that is connected to God's source. And so the womb work, the womb restoration work, is about clearing the womb of these overlays, imprints, traumas, the sexual distortion, and the energies that can be attached that might be siphoning from the tentacles. I've seen all sorts of crazy things in my sessions. And the good news is God has ultimate authority. So it always gets cleared. But there are some very, very tricky energies, and they get attached and hooked in very, very insidious ways. And the sexual energy itself is, we call it sexual energy, but really what it is life force, creation energy. And so that in itself is even a slight distortion to think of it only as sexual. And then we have these overlays over what it means to be sexual, right? Not seeing that energy as pure and potent and powerful. And so that's what gets hooked into. And we have the Jezebel energies. That's what I thought of when you were alluding to the distortions first and foremost,
Yes.
that have women operating in that distorted sexual energy. And when we operate from our power, we have very clear boundaries, and nothing that is not sacred is allowed in. And I'm not saying that has to look like any certain thing, but if the womb isn't honored, that is not sacred. If she's not being honored by a masculine, it is inherently not sacred. And again, people can have different containers of what that honoring and sacredness looks like. But what I have recognized, and, in myself as well, that having the trauma and the, potentially the hooks from exes and things like that, that where, the energy wasn't as clear and pure because there was still residue or attachments left in there. That is what can distort the field, and it can impact the boundaries that we do hold, where our discernment isn't as clear, our truth isn't as clear, we're not trusting our truth as readily, we give our power away, and we allow in then energies that are actually not honoring. And they might come in a very, very deceptive facade with a deceptive mask, saying all the right things, but there's usually going to be a tiny niggle. There's going to be there's going to be something that comes into our field that is telling us this is not your highest truth. And so we can say we're being tested, but all these opportunities serve to reflect to us where we still are giving our power away, where we still have these openings in our field, slits, tears, portals, hooks, siphons, cords, entanglements, whatever you want to call it, all of the above. They come through in different forms. But yeah, and this is not at all about fear. This is about awareness and clarity. If things are not moving forward, if the needle isn't moving forward in any meaningful way after doing, let's say, 15 years of work, this could often be the missing key. This is often the hidden layer that so many haven't been able to see because we haven't been taught about it, because we haven't been fully facing the darkness. And it doesn't necessarily have to be overly complicated. Like just examples, like a couple sessions, I've had women say there's a specific issue. They've been doing the work for years, 15 years, consciously doing the work, but there was still something there. And two separate women specifically said 15 years. So I think that's kind of an interesting tidbit, but it's like, that's a long time to be doing this work, and for the needle to not be, for the thing that is bothering them most to not be cleared from the field, right?
Yeah.
And, fortunately, this work, that's why I like to call it like liberation or something, and restoration, because it doesn't have to be this whole long drawn out process if you know what to look for. So this is where we regain our power, is by sealing up those boundaries and having absolute clarity in our field. Light body restoration is basically becoming the diamond, is how I like to look at it, where that diamond radiates, she shines, but she's also so solid, so strong, and is like, it's like the firmest surface in the world, or however that we say that.
Yes.
So yeah, so that's what's coming to mind right now, related to that. Yeah.
And it's beautiful to listen to you, and I can see that yes, when I look at my own life, and I can see how also we have different kind of yes, programs and hooks and traumas maybe. So what, because we can be afraid of specific things, and we can have different things that we are here to clear out and so on. And I when you talked about the diamond, I can feel how, especially my womb, but also my heart and my whole body sometimes have been in that high vibrated state and shining like a diamond, and something have happened and I have disconnected from it, or been started to be afraid of it, and shut down and started to hide, and that's have been my my thing in life. But now I can see it, so it can happen in a day and then I'm back. So it doesn't have to be, but I can see that it still can happen even if we are in our sovereignty. We can be targeted, and that's nothing wrong with that. I think sometimes we feel that I have, for me, I have thought that if someone is telling me that you're wrong, then I have to look what I have done that is wrong. And after reflecting on that, and then I see, but I can't see what I've done. So sometimes it's not me, it's someone that don't want me to shine.
Mm-hmm.
If you
Yeah.
understand.
I absolutely, I know exactly what you're saying. And before I elaborate, I want to share one expression that came to mind. I think I wrote this word for word in one of my chapters in the book. The deeper we dive, the higher we rise, and the bounce back gets faster and faster. And I've been saying that for a while. The deeper you dive, the higher you rise. It's so true. And there's going to be a lot of people out there that don't want to see you rise. They don't want to see you shine because it's going to trigger their insecurities. And as you're saying, like, it's always important to take a step back. Is this triggering me because there's, something that's true that I haven't faced? Or are they right? Like, was I out of line? To always take a step back and acknowledge maybe where you were not operating in the highest levels of integrity or truth, right? We always own our own stuff, keep our side of the street clean, but also to have that level of discernment and clarity when the trickiest narcissist type energy will try to project onto us something that's actually just not true. But that is, when we get to this point, it's going to be even trickier and more deceptive. And we're going to have such clarity that that's not mine. I don't need to take that on. That is not my responsibility. And to be able to own that, to hold that boundary, to speak the truth, hold the boundary. And if you need to work that cutoff game, use that block button. Sometimes that is required. Unfortunately, I give people the benefit of the doubt, if anything, way too long. But just this past weekend, I actually used that block button with 3 different people. And in 2 cases, it was a very, very long time coming, old friends that I'm aware of the just the mean energy going on. And I'm like, why am I even allowing that into my energetic field, right? Like, what am I doing? Just like letting them linger, you know? And I have, factual basis for the fact that they're doing that. I know that they are. It's not me just like, whatever. But yeah, I just want to share one other example though. One of the most intense initiations I went through was actually this narcissistic type targeting by a woman. And it was a former friend and healer. And it was out of that envy and jealousy. And I'm bringing this up because she was projecting all this stuff onto me that it made me question everything about myself. The gaslighting was next level. But the lesson was that I had put her on a slight pedestal because she was doing sessions for me. She did readings for me, like Akashic readings. And I even did an Akashic course with her. And so I saw her a little bit as a teacher and a healer, not just a friend. And it was her idea to go on this pilgrimage together and all of that. But I realized that she was just setting this all up. She had asked me to live with her, and she had set up this whole dynamic so that she could have direct access to my field. And in one of the sessions, she, instead of removing something that I was told was in my womb, like a curse, ancestral curse, she put a siphon in to siphon my life force energy. But the lesson that I had to learn, and it honestly took me quite a while to figure it all out, what was actually going on first off, but then also how to get it out second off. But then even once the thing was out, what then? How do I actually regain my stability? And I realized that that whole situation was bringing me so deep within myself to regain not just my truth, but my self-trust. That was what was targeted most. And the devil is doubt, right? So anytime we're in a space of self-doubt, questioning ourselves, we're out of our power. We're giving more power to the devil than to God.
Yes.
And yes, sometimes we have to look in the mirror and get honest and clear with ourselves, but sometimes the lesson is the boundary, not
Yes.
what they're projecting onto you.
No. And I'm so happy that you shared about that, because I think that we can sometimes get caught in that, and we think we are paralyzed because it's like a poison, so we get paralyzed and we can't do anything because the only thing that is going on is that is something wrong with us. And for me also, I don't have the right to live even.
Mhm.
It can be that
Mhm.
poison,
Mm.
this energy. So it's so important to know that it can be something like that, and we can change it also, as you said.
Mhm.
It's not
Mhm.
being in we can change it. And there was something that you were saying that I was starting to think about this. I think you said something about the Jezebel spirit, and also I know that in some of your videos you have talked about all this, the Queen in Snow White, and um, what is she calls in the Little Mermaid, and I can see that.
Ursula.
Oh, yeah, Ursula, and times in my life where all of them had showed up, and I have this.
Mhm.
Always have this longing to be the most loving, first the child, and then the youth girl, and now the woman who carries the vibration of love. I want to be loving and supporting, and I can see that have not been good for me all the time. Um,
Mhm.
just like this in the movies, and how, yes, the dark mothers have been siphon my energy.
Yes, yes. The dark mother energy is very pervasive. And I will say that that energy, it's like I see it usually as tentacles most often, or like this. It very much is Maleficent and Ursula energy, like this kind of dark, like robe and everything. Um, but it's this tentacle energy that can often work through their narcissistic sons in a more practical manner. It's often that energy. That's the reason so many men have this narcissistic energy these days, is it's actually this dark mother consciousness working through them to target the Sophianic womb, the pure, innocent, true, loving feminine energy.
Yeah.
And we shut that down because we don't feel safe.
Yeah.
And so, getting back into that safety aspect, we dim our light because we don't feel safe being seen because we have been targeted.
Mm.
And so, part of this process that we're going through, I've been feeling this energy rising so palpably. The divine feminine sovereignty reclamation energy is the phrase that I have put onto it. But I've been feeling it rising in the collective, and it's really time to do this work to reclaim our power and our truth and to recognize that it is safe. And a lot of what is required to get to that space is to soften, ironically,
Yeah.
to soften into trust. You said force before, this energy of masculine force kind of underlying our desire to be more feminine. And
Yes.
this is where it gets tricky. It's not easy. This is not an easy journey because we've been operating in our masculine collectively.
Yeah.
And, so for the men too, they've got to integrate this feminine energy and the honoring of the feminine. But
Yeah.
we're meant to soften into trust and receptivity, but
Mm.
also have those firm boundaries at the same time, but then allow our energy to flow, to trust the flow, to stay open to receiving opportunities. But we build that trust through building boundaries and discernment. So that's that duality coming into play. We're able to more fully trust when we have done the work to reclaim our sovereignty by building the boundaries.
Yes.
So it's not walls, it's not a fortress. It is a clear boundary that only lets in the good.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But then we also, so I just want to add this one piece. We have the self-trust to discern very clearly what
Yeah.
is for us and what is not. Yeah. That's the key
Yes.
thing along with the boundary.
Yes, absolutely. And I also feel that she is rising and wants to, yes, she's ready to make herself uh, heard and seen and felt. And I think
Hmm.
that to come back to what you were talking about in the beginning, how important our voices are
Hmm.
for that, because I think that she is the voice, and when we start to take that back, it also clears our wounds in some way. For me, it have been this journey, so it helps to clear out and to start to speak the truth. And as we have seen in this episode, it happen things, it things in the way, even for for the ones who speaks, and it's
Hmm.
sometimes it's not your own things, it can
Yeah,
be
yeah.
something else. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that actually. I was like, I wonder if I'm actually picking up on the collective energy of those who are going to listen. And, I'm always like, oh yeah, I have more layers to move through. And then I was like, perhaps it's more than just my own though that I'm picking up on. Because I am an alchemist. So many of us are naturally alchemists. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's that because when you had your masterclass on the uh, 11th of January, I also had my upstart for my 11-day, the Song of the Womb. And
Mm,
always when I have these things, so many weird things comes up inside of me, and I also think that you have had that. So it's not
mm-hmm.
different now when we speak, and so many are going to listen to this, and
Yeah. Yeah.
we can help to clear it out.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. When I was hosting my Cosmic Womb course, I was going through the initiations every week. I would go through a clearing, an upgrade, an activation, a bit of a purging in some cases. And the purification and the clearing, usually there is a purge process involved, and it can be mild, it can be subtle, but sometimes it can feel quite intense on the body. And so, yes, I absolutely am very clear that there were personal things coming through, but I also, when you hold the space for a group field, it is it's not just your own usually. And touching back on the womb and the throat being intimately linked, they're both the centers of creation, the feminine center of creation, the masculine center of creation, being the throat, the feminine, the womb, of course. And as you were speaking into it, I was like, I think it goes in tandem. It's kind of like an infinity flow. To me, when we do the womb work, it helps to open up the throat. But as you were saying that, yeah, the throat opening up can then impact the energetics in the womb as well. So it's definitely an iterative flow. And it's, again, like another layer of creating union within the body, the body itself holding the union frequencies. We can look at it as masculine and feminine, but there's a lot of different ways that that comes into play. And in this case, the throat and the womb, they each do carry a masculine and feminine frequency.
Mm.
But those coming into union help us to, or being more unified and operating in coherence, a coherence being a word that's been coming up a lot for me. I've been hosting this container overflow, a 10-day feminine wealth frequency immersion, where I am literally talking about coherence in the system being the foundation for this frequency of overflow to operate within our fields. And so, yeah, it is a lot about the womb and the throat being safe to feel both grounded and to be expressed, that energy flowing freely and fluidly. That's that feminine energy. So, yeah, trusting and surrendering to the unknown is not an easy task, but that is the task of the feminine, especially to lead the way in trusting in the unknown, the unseen, and trusting that our truth, even though it might be unseen, is a higher truth. That's that oracular. We've got to trust ourselves and that truth that is coming through above all. And
Mm.
so when I'm thinking about that questioning of what I brought through yesterday, and I was like, oh yeah, that is what's going on. It's that oracular trust that's being anchored into the planet, that oracular truth rising. And what that is trusting in the unknown, trusting in the unseen, but we know it to be a higher truth, right? Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely, yes. And I see that, I just want to share that how I can see it in childbirth. Both my own,
Mm.
I have 6 children, so I have birth without any medical. Uh,
6?
yes,
Wow. What a powerful womb portal.
yes. And then I think I said it in some video some days ago that every child that have entered or soul have had entered into my womb had cleared it. I could feel these diamonds that were bathing in my womb water, and I always wanted to clear it and visualize that my their water was the most clearest water, and also how they entered me and cleared me, because every pregnancy have been an update of me. So
Mm,
if we allow that to be an initiation, it can absolutely be that. But
mm,
also when we are giving birth, if we can use our voices to help the womb and the yoni to open up, and the birth canal can be relaxed, then it happens something. So
mm.
sometimes I just had to say something random about my mother. And
Oh,
when I did that, my child was born. So
wow.
we these things that we are holding deep inside our pelvic um, floor can be things that we need to let go of in the birth
Mm-hmm.
process. And I don't think it's only when we are giving birth to a child, also to our businesses and our yes, what we are now creating, a book, a song. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, I when I brought my book out into the world last year, I was like, "Oh wow, I am going through a birthing process right now." Not that I had any physical birthing process to correlate it to. It's a bit different, of course, but I was like, "Oh, this is a birthing process, isn't it?" In its own right.
yeah,
Yeah, it's an initiation to bring through something that reflects our soul essence. And when we're here on these missions, missions of service and creations that carry frequency, there is a soul essence integrated into that. It is carrying a specific frequency and coding. And so there is a vulnerability that comes with that and
yeah.
that deeper soul level initiation that comes with that. But thank you for sharing about your birth experiences and the connection with the womb and the throat activating. It's so fascinating to me. Wow.
Yes,
Also
and it's
tucking some of those tidbits in the back of my mind.
yes, exactly. Yeah, and it's so, and when you, because I have many of these things I have experienced in my body, and then
Mm,
when I understand it, it makes so sense. Oh, that's what
yeah.
is happening. Yes, that's what is
Yeah.
happening. And also now when I said yes to this Song of the Womb, I had my opening ceremony or the masterclass in the beginning, and then I started to get this feeling of nobody is listening to me. No one is listening to my wisdom. And I had this conversation with my man, and the feeling that he didn't believe in my
Mm,
oracular knowing. And
mm,
this deep pain, my heart was, I have a physically pain in my heart and in my womb.
mm,
But when I shared it to him, I said, it feel like, why is nobody listening? It felt like, the world, it's happening something. And I
mm,
have this feeling, I know that we have to go, or I know something, and nobody is listening. And I think that we as oracles have this deep pain of not being listened to, or the feminine.
mhm,
We have this
mhm,
knowing. And I also um, was speaking about, you were talking about the unknown, and I was talking about the song of the womb, that we have to trust this this song, or this knowing, because when we are pregnant, we nobody sees it, or they don't feel the child like we do, but
mm,
still we know what we are
mhm,
creating inside there. And if we can do that with everything that we want to birth or share, uh,
mhm,
it felt more safe for me, because I knew that feeling, and I trust.
mhm,
Yeah, I just wanted to
mhm.
share that.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Yeah, it's such an an interesting process that the feminine is going through, those of us especially who hold these particular codes and blueprints to bring this truth through when so much of the world is still not close to being ready for it. We're
Yeah.
being called so deeply into that self-trust, into that inner knowing, and
Yeah.
to not allow that projection or doubt from those around us who can't see it to
No.
get to us. I've literally had people tell me, on about my whole path, not just my book or any specific thing, my entire path.
Yeah.
I just don't see it. And at first, the first time I heard that, I was a little hurt by it, a little triggered by it. I was like, how don't you see me? Like, how do you not understand anything about what I've been going through? Like, you saw me go through cancer. You
Yeah.
know why I see the world that I do at this point. You
Yeah.
know what I went through. But I realized that that was actually a far more profound statement than even they realized. It
Yeah.
was a reflection of the collective consciousness that cannot see
Yes.
beyond the physical reality. They
Mm.
cannot see into the unknown. They cannot see beyond their filters, their perceptions, their matrix overlays. They cannot
Yeah.
see it. And
No.
so, therefore, when people still have that kind of overlay, no, they will not see our truth.
No.
So, that's part of the initiation, at least that I have experienced myself personally,
Yeah.
is not relying on that validation and that affirmation, or not waiting for it, not expecting it, not
No.
needing that approval from those people who aren't ready to see us or hear us yet. And
No.
sometimes that's going to be close people in our world, and it's going to be really hard. And often that is what our soul chose. Some of us are born
Yeah.
into families that we're here to change the lineage. Well, guess what? Those family members are probably not going to understand our path or see
No.
things the way that we do. So it's going to be part of that individuation, that process of individuation, to use a more psychological term for it. My background is psychology. That we have to go through to reclaim our power. And then we can bring that feminine consciousness that is collective, that is collaborative, that is about cooperation and community back into play. But we've got to also be in our individual power, our individual sovereignty, so that we're not enmeshed with
Yes.
with you know energies that are not of the highest truth and alignment themselves specifically.
Mm. Yes. Thank you for sharing this. Because sometimes we feel that, okay, I just have to do this no matter what is happening. And then we can feel this liberation inside of
Mm,
us.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, yes. But Amanda, I think we are going to wrap this up. But I
Mm.
heard you talked about, was it called the womb flow? No?
I mentioned two different ones, I think.
Yeah.
Overflow
Overflow, yes.
is a 10-day immersion that's not so focused on the womb specifically. Technically, this is not just for women, but the whole idea is to get into the feminine wealth frequency. And that is that openness, that receptivity. But what the foundation of that is internal coherence and internal safety. So
Mm.
it's 10 transmissions, 10 audio drops. And excuse me, it's help the intention is to help us get anchored in our body, in our truth, and in safety, so that we can open to receive the opportunities, the abundance, and sure, money itself, yes. But I define wealth far more broadly than just money. But how are we going to serve in our highest capacity if we're not well resourced?
Mm.
So looking at that from a broader perspective too, of course, what does that mean to be well well resourced, but that's the whole intention of that one. And that's kind of a more, it's a smaller drop, an introduction to my work if people resonate as well. And then I also mentioned Cosmic Womb, which I actually do have round 2 coming up. And the theme for this one is the sacred flame, the sacred eternal flame. And we're entering this year of the fire horse, but we also have Imbolc and the rebirth of the sun with the equinox kind of holding this container on either end. So it's a 6-week immersion of deep integration, and there is activation, but it is an upgrade. It is an embodiment container that really goes deep into the womb work, but really integrating those codes of the Holy Mother. And upcoming, I'm also going to be hosting the 13 Keys to Multidimensional Mastery soon. And that is, I'm going to be teaching women how to do a lot of what I do and to really embody and integrate on a more holistic level. So that's coming up as well. So I'm really excited to be bringing that one forward. But yeah, so if anybody has any questions, they can always reach out. And of course, one-on-ones as well.
So beautiful. So I got that to womb flow, but I understand now.
Yeah, yeah. And honestly, probably if anybody's interested in going a little deeper, the Divine Feminine Sovereignty Reclamation free masterclass is probably the easiest way to enter my world. It's free. So
Yes, it
should
is
probably
free.
add that in there.
Yeah. So if it's okay for you, Amanda, I will put all the links under this video so they
Yeah,
can
yeah.
find it. Yeah,
Beautiful.
because
Thank you.
sometimes when we have listened to this kind of conversations, we are somewhere we can't really
Oh,
remember
for
what
sure.
we said. So it's easiest to
Yeah.
look at the links. And yes, the masterclass is also absolutely amazing. And your
Thank you.
podcast, Amanda has a YouTube channel too. So there's
Hmm.
many.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I don't want to overwhelm with the options, but yes, please feel free to subscribe or follow my podcast, Heart of Truth. And then, of course, there is the book and my audiobook. The audiobook is available. It's the same. So I don't want to overwhelm the options, but
How they
yes,
have it.
there's a few different ways to dip into my world right now.
Mm. So beautiful. And I feel so honored to have you here and to have this conversation, even
The
if,
honor is all mine. Thank you. Yeah.
yeah. So thank you for all who listen.
Thank you for listening. If this was touching you, please feel free to share. And to find out more, check out the links below.